Welcome, commuters, to episode 12 of The Commute. I really would like everyone to email me with how they commute. Tell me how you get to work. What little tricks do you have to make it more enjoyable? My friend Robin, I believe, at least he used to, I don't know whether he still does, has a Kindle that's in his inside pocket of his jacket, and it fits in there, and it isn't heavy and doesn't take up much room, and then he reads. I think that's fantastic. If I was more of a reader, it'd be great. You just, no matter when, the first thing you get on the train, bang, it's right there, you pull it out, because it's a Kindle, the battery lasts forever, and you've always got something to read, and that would be fantastic. So let me know. I'd like to know about other people's ways of commuting and how they get through it, especially if you've got a long commute like me. So last episode I was talking about Australia Day and how I find it hard to ignore the pain and suffering that happened in Australia's past 200 years ago or so. And today I want to try and talk about how do you move on from that? How do we move forward now? I'm really not sure how we can or how we do, because obviously the white folk of Australia are not going to piss off. They're not going back to England. They're here, we're here. There's talk at the moment of becoming a republic again. It happens every few years. I, for one, don't like royalty and think the Queen should fuck off. So yes, I think we should be a republic of some kind. Pardon me. But how do we do that? How do we go forward? How do you acknowledge? Because within every group, there are good and bad. So we can't suggest that all Aboriginal Australians are fine, great, and should be given land or this or that or anything like that. But there is no doubt in my mind that the Australian government has screwed over the native Indigenous owners of this land. And so how do you possibly reconcile that? How do you give back something? Because there are still racists and stuff out there that just automatically say, oh, you're black, you're no good. Obviously a lot more savage than that. Indigenous journalist, Stan Grant, who has I think he said a white mum, did a speech recently that hopefully I'll remember to link to it in the show notes, and it was fantastic. It was such a good speech. And he made the comment that his mum had to go to a different hospital in the 1960s because she was having a black man's child. His mum being white. And in the story, in the speech, he made reference to a bunch of different very racist incidents. But that was the one that really stuck out to me for some reason. And it's not surprising. Back in the 60s, that was the attitude. Amazed by. Not that you can't see that we're all... would try to give some compassion to a woman who's about to give birth. And I don't know, can we be satisfied in things like Arnhem Land or Cactus that are Australian control? Just not that long ago, the Australian government decided to intervene in the Northern Territory and go in and I'm not sure exactly what they did, but they went in and tried to stop people doing what they wanted to do and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of, apparently, now I'm a white boy from suburban Melbourne, Mentone, and I'm not 100% up on what was happening up there, but apparently there is problems with getting high off sniffing petrol. Do we go in and tell them to stop? Do we take away the service stations with the petrol? What do we do? How do you help people who have been oppressed and have effectively given up? Because that's the same. There are white people that are like that too. So these people are no different. It's just that they happen to be black. So it is ingrained racism. I saw another image recently about how on Australia Day it's perfectly okay for a bunch of white guys to go get smashed and throw up and act like absolute idiots, but a bunch of in a brown paper bag is unacceptable. I'm driving through an area right now that wasn't here when I grew up, sort of in this area. And in 10 years on that side of the road, so that side of the road is a new housing estate, that side of the road is field. In 10 years, that side of the road is going to be a new housing estate. How do you stop that if you believe that Aboriginal Australians should be given their land back? How can we make this right? I don't think it can be made right. We went to the Melbourne Museum recently, and there was a fascinating amount of Aboriginal culture section. I really found it fascinating, given that I've got a bit of an interest in bushcraft and camping out in the woods and stuff. I found the Aboriginal ways of doing things. They had possum fur coats, which I thought is fantastic. And the way they did things, making fire or hunting with spears, the fantastic. I'm not sure whether other native populations do this, but they have a spear in a stick that has a hook. So the spear, this one, goes into the hook like that, and when you throw it, you get more leverage. That's just brilliant. And to be able to go hunting with that, they didn't develop the bow and arrow as such. They developed a spear with a hook thing on the end of it. Should have done some research and found out the name. And that was just brilliant. I've always found that really fascinating. How do you work that out and then get accuracy with that? I couldn't spear anything if I tried. I found it really fascinating. But is that enough? Is it enough to acknowledge them? Is it enough to use Aboriginal art to decorate things? And when is it inappropriate? There was an underwear company tried to celebrate Australia Day by having some pretty bullshit Aboriginal art on their undies and in their ad. And that, you could just look at it and go, well, that's in bad taste. Same as the Kardashians wearing Native American headdresses. The cultural appropriation and all that kind of stuff. This has been a bad episode because I haven't got any real talking. It's just questions. I don't know how you can make it right, how you can fix these kind of issues. I'd be very interested to hear what you've got to say if you feel like contributing. Make a video and I'll put it in the episode. Send me an email at bobbyfreakout@gmail.com. What can we do to amend the problems of our white forefathers? And what can we do to continue acknowledging the native populations of all countries and continents and lands around the world. Thank you very much. The commute has come to an end.